Hello students, welcome to our demonstration for today. So today I'm going to demonstrate to you how to create a login form here in Visual Basic. Now let's start creating that project. So first we need to click this new project, and then this dialog box again will appear. So make sure you click Windows Forms application and then start renaming now your project. Now I want you later to rename your project as login form. Okay, and then once you're done, click OK. And then you will be transferred here on this interface or the designer window. Now we need first to add controls on the interface of our login form, so we will be needing the toolbox. So on the toolbar, click this icon or you may press Ctrl Alt X on the keyboard, and then the toolbox now will show up. Now for the interface of our login form, we will be needing label number 1. So let's add two label. So click the label here and then add label here on your form, and then click the label here and then add label here onto your form. Something like that. Now the next step is we need to change the text property of this label. Now for the label 1, so click the label 1 and then go to the properties panel and then change the text property to username. Okay, now since the user of our program will input the username in our login form. Now for the second label, we need to change the text property of that. So go to the text property and then change it to password and then semicolon, something like that. Okay, now we need now a control where the user can input the username and then the password. So we will be needing text boxes. So go to the toolbox again and then look for text box. So click the text box here and then drag it here, something like that, and then add another text box. So click here and then drag it here and then position your text box here. So this is now our text box 1 and this is now our text box 2. Okay, so I'll put it here and then the properties panel here so that you can see it better. Okay, something like that. Now next in the interface of our login form, we need two buttons for the login and then for the close button. So let's go now to the toolbox and then click the button and then drag it here. Okay, and then let's add another button and then put it here. So there, so we can now position our button somewhere here. And then let's now change the text property of our two buttons. Now for the button 1, let's change it to login. So go to the text property. So click the button 1, make sure you click that, and then change it to login. Okay, then click anywhere. And then for the button 2, let's change the text property to close. So once we click this button, the program or the entire program will close. Okay, something like that. So we want on top of this, we want to add another label. So go to the toolbox and then click label and then drag it here. And then let's name it or change the text property of that label 3 to login form. Let's say login form. So there. Okay, so let's change or let's make the font size of this label a little bit bigger. So go to the font property, click the ellipsis here, and then change the size of the label. Let's say 14, that's enough I think, and then reposition it again. Okay, now we are done adding the basic controls here for our login form. So we won't be needing this toolbox anymore, so we can close it now. And then what we need is the properties panel. Now the next step is we need to rename our controls. Okay, now in renaming our controls, we need to follow a certain rule. So we will be needing to add prefix, no, before the name of each control. So let's say for example we want to change the name of this text box. So all we have to do is to click that and then look for the name property. So the name property is different from the text property, so you have to remember that. Okay, so the name property will be now the name of your control. Okay, so we want to rename our text box, and then again, like what I have mentioned, we need to use the prefix, no, for each control. Okay, so I will show it here right now, the different prefix of various controls. So we need to follow and use that when naming our controls here in Visual Basic. So go back now to our Visual Basic. So we need to rename now our first text box. So since this is the username text box, or the user will input the username here on this text box, so I will name it as username, or you name it to something related to the function of this control or to any control. Okay, so do not forget the prefix txt for the text box, and then name it username. So again, the name of your control must be something related to the function of that control to the program. Okay, something like that. And then click the text box 2, and then let's name it. So go to the name property, and then of course we need to use the prefix. So the prefix for text box again is txt, and then since this is since in this text box the user will input their password, so we need to name it as password, something like that. Okay, and then click anywhere. So here. Okay, next we need to rename our login. Okay, login button. So again, go to the name property and then rename it as, now if you can still remember, the prefix for the button control is btn. So we need to type btn and then login. Okay, so something, name it to something related to the function nga of our button. So click anywhere, and then for the close, so click the close button, go to the name property, and then rename now this button, so the prefix btn, and then type close. Okay, something like that. Okay, so this is now, as you can see here, the name is txt username. So if you want to call this text box, or you have to use the txt username. So this is now the txt password, this is now btn login, and this is now btn close. Okay, so that's the end of the part 1 of our tutorial in creating the login form here in Visual Basic. So please do not forget to watch the part 2, and see you on my next tutorial.